Welcome to AI Mastery. Today we have Dustin Stout. He is a multifaceted entrepreneur, digital marketing consultant, speaker, and renowned for his expertise in social media strategy, design, and content marketing. He is the founder and CEO of Magai, the all-in-one AI marketing platform that consolidates the top-tier AI tools into one seamless experience. So we're just going to jump right in, Dustin, and have some fun and just talk and see how life is going with you.
Sounds
So
good.
I guess I want to go back into your history just a little bit. I did not know this about you until I started looking around and doing some research, but you used to be a youth pastor?
Yep.
That's cool. My brother-in-law is a youth pastor in a small town, so it's fascinating to meet youth pastors because it's a different breed compared to pastoral positions.
I like to say that I'm still recovering 20 years later.
He's still doing it, and everything that he does revolves around it. Everything, DNOW, all the, around the country. So high school football, sports, it's everything to these towns out here. So we're football games almost every weekend, basketball games. So it's fun. I'm not even the youth pastor. I just enjoy going to it, supporting our little town. I think there's 2,000 people here, so it's great. So what made you transition into digital marketing?
Well, so while I was doing ministry, being the head of both the middle school and high school ministry at a satellite campus, we were a satellite campus of a much larger 15,000 member church that was literally 8 miles down the street. So I had to do everything, and that means I have to figure out, how do I reach the students in our local area? Well, that's marketing. And so I had to learn marketing and outreach and how do I raise awareness for our brand, so to speak, so that we can give people the product, which is the good news, and build our little group to be the best small youth group in the valley. So I had to learn marketing. And at the time, Facebook was at its peak in terms of popularity with teenagers. So you can clock how long ago that was. So Facebook was where it's at. And I happened to visit a conference down in Orange County. It was called Catalyst West. And I sat in a room with a guy named Michael Hyatt. And this was right before he published his book called Platform. And you can tell he was talking through all the points of his soon to be released book, just teaching about how you can leverage social media and blogging as a platform to grow your audience. And so it made sense to me, and I took very quickly to that. And I've always had a knack for technology and a bit of a techie. So I learned how to use social media. I learned how to use the internet and build a website, and started blogging and started writing about all these things that I was learning. So I was not just using blogging and social media as a means to get my target audience, right, to teenagers, but I also wanted to share it as a way, or use it as a way to share what I was learning in building that audience, right? Because it was kind of fascinating to me learning from Michael Hyatt, and I wanted to learn what I was discovering, or teach what I was discovering, because they say that you learn better when you teach something. So I decided to write about social media, marketing, website design, and all the stuff that I taught myself how to do. And before long, people were asking me if I can consult their business or consult their organization. And it just so happens around 2010, right at the end of 2011, my wife was pregnant with our first child. And I was starting to take on a few clients here and there, just on the side while running the ministry. And I'll never forget, I think it was around November of 2011. That seems about right. I was working both at the church and part-time at the mall at a Christian clothing store. And in the same week, I got told by both companies that as of January 1st, I would no longer have a job. At the store would be closing permanently as of January 1st. And the church, as of January 1st, had no more budget to pay me. They had huge budget cuts. And unfortunately, my very modest $7,000 a year salary would be cut. So yeah, that was a shocker for about to be a first-time dad.
Yeah.
And still newly married. It was in our first year of marriage. We celebrated our 1 year anniversary the month before that. And now I'm in a position where I'm about to lose both of my sources of income. I have maybe a few clients on the side that are starting to make some income from. And I took this as an opportunity of God saying, Well, this was done and over, and now it's time for a new season, and you're going to have to trust me.
Yep.
So he's always provided. So I was scared and not sure what was going to happen, but had no choice but to take the leap of faith anyways. Thankfully, I didn't have to go fully working for myself full time right away. There was about a month-long period between January and February where I was looking for work as well, and managed to land a full-time job as a graphic designer working for a Christian t-shirt printing company. And for about 2 years, I worked there and built my side business, consulting businesses and organizations and building websites, driving social media audience growth and traffic to their websites and so forth. And eventually had built up enough side business where I could just completely leave that graphic design job and start my own consulting agency.
All right, that's awesome. How did you make the transition from that to AI and starting Magi? 'Cause that's
Well, that's a journey because I started as a consultant. So I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And so I loved working with clients. I'm also an extrovert. So extrovert plus perfectionist means I really want to nail this for every single client because I love people and just want to see them thrive. And so the challenge there with being perfectionist when it comes to building websites, for example, is it's a highly, at least it was back then. Now it's a little bit easier. But back then it was very much like a manual type of labor. Not physical sense, but in the mental sense, you had to, build and code and work every aspect of that website. It was very difficult and time consuming. And I found that I had a very hard time being efficient with my time. And so I might have 2 or 3 clients at a time, but I could never exceed that amount because I took so long on the work and I wanted to really make each one perfect. When you spend an hour and a half trying to figure out what color and size the button is, that's not a business that scales very well.
yeah.
And so to delegate too when you're a perfectionist. So I realized that maybe there's a different way I can apply this way that God built me to really care about the details. And this digital products came along, and I thought to myself, well, maybe if all my time building one digital product that can serve thousands of people rather than one person at a time, maybe that's a much better use of my time. And so in about 2014, I got together with a couple of friends. We had an idea for a WordPress plugin. And that WordPress plugin was revolutionary. It was, a gap marketplace that we saw. We saw, social websites were terrible, and we wanted to make them better. And we had a bunch of ideas, and so we built a product. And that product was very successful. It was my first real taste of software as a service type of products, or the short term is SaaS. And I thought to myself, this is the life. Like, this is how I was built. I get to spend all of that perfectionism. I get to craft the heck out of this one single digital product, and it can help tens of thousands of people. And it so happens that one product ended up being installed on well over 100,000 websites in its lifetime. And so it was very successful. And in about 2020, I found my partners and I had kind of grown apart. We didn't really see eye to eye much anymore. I had a different vision for the company than they did. So I decided to exit that company in 2020. And I had a couple ideas for other software products that I wanted to build. Long story short, the idea in my head was a $100 million idea, but I didn't have $100 million to build it. And I was really thinking about AI stuff before AI was even feasible. These products were ultimately meant to be AI powered, but this was 2020 and ChatGPT hadn't hit the scene yet. And I was 2 years ahead of any of that stuff being remotely possible. And so what I had to do was build a much smaller version of what I actually wanted to build, a much more trimmed down version. And I had to pay developers to do it because I myself am actually not a developer. I know enough code to be dangerous, but I trust the real hard development work to professional engineers and developers. So I had to pay to get those products made. Long story short, I know I said that already, but going too long. $65,000 later, I had 2 products that nobody wanted to buy and nobody seemed to be willing to pay for, and I was about to go broke. And here we are in 2022 now that I've made this realization that these products are going nowhere. And I was at the absolute lowest in terms of finances, didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage in the coming months. I was at my absolute lowest spiritually because it seemed like over the last 3 or 4 years at that point, even prior to me leaving the previous company, it just seemed like failure after failure after life. Went through some really intensive health issues. I myself went through a lot of mental health struggles. I had a friend commit suicide. There were 3 or 4 deaths in the family. And so like, it just like, we were in a season of absolute darkness, and it was a valley of valleys, and I didn't know how I was going to get out. I thought several times that I just wanted to end it all and go home and be with Jesus. And I prayed for it on several occasions. But my wife kept reminding me that if God still has you here, he's still got a reason for you and a purpose for you. And so I kept moving forward by the grace of God, leaning on the strength of, with the help of, and it just kind of hit me one day. I was on the internet, heard these rumors of this thing called ChatGPT about to release, got beta access to it. And I had tried other apps. At that point, there had been some other AI writing tools, and they were all really interesting, but not very good.
Yeah.
And all had a lot of limitations. They were all predicated on these templates, and you had to fill out these forms, and you had to sort of adapt your ideas to the way that somebody else wanted to fit those ideas into a box. And they never seemed to work out well for me. So when ChatGPT hit the scene, it was like, oh gosh, wait a second. You mean I text message an AI and it just gives me what I want? I can just tell it in my own plain language, describe what I want, and it gives it to me. It does the thing. Mind blown. I almost instantly saw the writing on the wall. I kind of had this vision of like where this is going to go. I saw it completely changing the landscape of every industry, every our lives. I saw that everything was going to change from this point on. And so I started using ChatGPT all day, every day. I'd pick up more clients at that point because I really I was trying to figure out how I'm going to make ends meet. So I picked up a few clients. I started using ChatGPT for my own work, for my client work, and brainstorming different things. After a while, I realized like I'm learning a lot. It was almost like that season where I was learning a lot about digital marketing and learning to build websites. And I was, really new technology that is going to revolutionize, create a whole new paradigm. And I was really excited about that. And so as I'm doing it, the entrepreneur in me starts to find the gaps. I go, well, ChatGPT is great, but why doesn't it do this? Or why can't I do this with it? And, why have to go use this other app to get images made? And why can't I do it here in ChatGPT? And why can't I put these things into folders? Why can't I invite my assistant to come in and share my chats with me and collaborate? All these quality of life things started to pile up. And if there's one thing I know how to do, it's how to make a pleasant to use interface. And it comes from over a decade of websites and digital products. And so I thought to myself, I think I can make a better version of ChatGPT that will help me work better, faster, more efficiently, and my entire team. And so that's what I did. I set out to figure out how can I make a better version of ChatGPT. And it just so happens that all these AI companies that were popping up almost daily, they all had what's called an API. API is simply a protocol in which one application can talk to another application, which means you can build your own version of ChatGPT, and it's the same exact ChatGPT model that anybody would be using inside of ChatGPT. And so what I managed to do was just figure out, how do I build a better interface? How do I build all these tools on top of ChatGPT that I wish ChatGPT had? And that's what I did. Within, I think it was 8 weeks, start to finish, it took me to build the first version of Magi. And it was much more than just a ChatGPT alternative. I was leveraging other AI models like Claude and Google's models at that time. This is before they released Gemini. But they had something called Palm. And so we released with a handful of other AIs that would essentially allow you to use all the different AIs in one place, along with image generators and eventually video generators. And so it was like, I went on this in this place of where I didn't think I had anything left to give in the world. And I didn't know what God had me here for. And then this new technology comes along and I go, I think I can make this better. I think I can make it easier to use for the average person, because at the time, all the AI stuff coming out was made by developers, made by really smart people. And the thing with really smart people is oftentimes they'll build products for other really smart people who are at their level. And the average person who's not trying to keep up with all that stuff gets lost and they don't know how to use those things. And so I wanted to build a product that anybody can use. Anybody can just pick it up and start using it, and it would be a pleasant experience, and they wouldn't have to learn all these technical terms and weird language with AI. So by the grace of God, figured it out, launched version 1 of Magi with no one but myself, didn't pay a single developer, just learned what I needed to learn and launched it. And turns out a lot of people really appreciated it, and they wanted to use Magi as well. And we've grown immensely since then, and super grateful that give up, and God didn't give up on me in my darkest hour.
Wow, that's a story. So what all platforms are you currently connected to? I know, well, you said ChatGPT, Claude, I think Midjourney's in there.
No, not Midjourney.
No?
So
Okay.
I was trying to count today. I was doing a video, and I was trying to count. We have almost, at this point, almost 50 different AI models. Around 30 of those are LLMs, large language models like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Llama, Nova, DeepSeek, a bunch of them, even some you may not have heard of, and different subversions of those models, because they all have two different versions, smart versions. And we have a bunch of image generators and video generators. Soon we'll also have audio generators as well. So the goal is to really give people the full of generative AI tools to have access to in one workspace, in one platform. Don't have to have 15 different subscriptions and 12 different accounts to manage. They can just have one account, one subscription, and get access to it all.
Sweet. Yeah, because right now, I'm pretty straight ChatGPT at this point. I'll still get to Claude and put in there, Perplexity, Leonardo. Don't really do Midjourney that much, but I've jumped in there when I've not been able to get any other image creator to actually do what I'm needing for. There's just so many of them. Having subscriptions to all of them,
it's a lot. It's daunting, and it's not just the financial burden, right? It's the mental load that is in having to learn 5 different interfaces. This app works this way and has the buttons over here. This one has the buttons down here, and they're different buttons, and it's a different layout. And your brain has to constantly do this context switching and figure out how all these different apps work. And not on top of that, when you generate something in Leonardo and then you generate something over in Midjourney, they're saved in different places. You have to figure out, how do I download them and then centralize how I'm storing these so I can find what I'm looking for later when I need to find that thing that I made 3 weeks ago, right? And so Magi really just eliminates all of that hassle. It brings it all into one interface. You generate something with any model, it's all centralized and stored in the same place, and searchable, filterable, folderable, organizable in any way you need, so that you don't have to play that game of model and application and account ping pong.
All right, so here, what is your favorite model that you use?
Well,
since you got access to all of them.
Yeah, and that's a great question, but the answer is fairly nuanced, because every model is good at different things. So, and it's apparent with the image models. So I'll start with the image models. Image models in particular are easy to kind of figure out. It's visual, and you can kind of see models good at that and not so good at that. DALL-E, for example, DALL-E is very versatile, but it's not really good at photorealism. It's, in fact, terrible at photorealistic images. If you try to ask it for a photo of someone, it often never looks like a real photo. It looks like a cartoon or a 3D CGI. So it's not very good at that. But when it comes to artwork, or abstract or impressionistic art, DALL-E is extremely good at creating that kind of stuff. So it really kind of depends job. For me personally, I tend to do a lot of photorealism. I like photorealism when I generate images. I use it for blog posts or social media content or website content, or even just, for the sake of art. So my go-to in that realm is Flux 1.1 Pro Ultra. They're Flux's most current, most advanced model, highest resolution model. It is exceptionally good at photorealistic outputs, but it really doesn't do artistic stuff very well. Things like paintings or abstracts or impressionism, it really fails miserably to do those types of styles. So when I do need something abstract or impressionistic, I tend to go with DALL-E. If I need something that's more graphical by nature, Ideogram is actually the better model, because they have a design style that you can select, and you can create logos and branding, and it does a super good job at it. So, images, Flux is where I start because of the photorealism, and then DALL-E might be a close second if I need artistic, expressionistic type stuff. And then, probably a Leonardo or an Ideogram, depending on the application of what I'm trying to get. But in terms of LLMs, so the language models, they're much harder to figure out what each one is good at, right? Because written text is so much more subjective, right? And it really applies to whatever you prefer to get, the writing style that you prefer. Personally, I find that Claude is the absolute best at getting public-facing copy written. So if I want a blog post written and I want some help writing a blog post, I go to Claude, because Claude just seems like it has a better human level of emotional understanding. It just writes better copy. Anything based in copy is what I use Claude for. In terms of creativity, though, I found that the GPT models tend to be more creative. So if I need to brainstorm, if I need to come up with different ideas, or I'm struggling to find a different perspective or a different analogy for something, I found that GPT-4 gives me much more creative ideas. And so I like to use it for that particular purpose, the original creative elements. And then when it comes to structure, if I'm trying to structure a blog post, especially for SEO purposes, I found that the Gemini models actually do a much better job at that. So again, it's more of like a case-by-case basis. Yeah. What's the task at hand, and which of these models can actually handle that task better? Which is also why we have in Magi, we call it the auto model. If you select auto from the list of available models, basically what the AI is going to do is it's going to analyze your prompt, and it's going to choose the best model behind the scenes to match that prompt, the model that will execute that prompt the best, and it's based on its training data. So that's why we built that. And I do have an article that I wrote kind of analyzing different LLMs and how to pick the right one for the right job. And even though that article was written probably 6 or 8 months ago at this point, the principles really ring true even with the newer models coming out. Claude still seems to be the best human-like language. GPT and now their O1 models seem to be the best at creative tasks and being really creative, finding different perspectives on things. And Gemini tends to be very well structured for particularly purposes. But that's how it's shaping out for me. Now I do also encourage, like, one of the things that you ask different AI experts what they prefer for, they'll give you 10 different answers. So I always encourage our users, the reason Magi gives you such easy access to all these is so you can explore and you can figure out which of these models gives you the type of result that you are looking for, and you can really make that call yourself.
In your system, can you use thing for SEO outlines for articles? Do you then take that and shove it into Claude and have it actually write based on those? Or
yeah, so from one of the things that I wanted to emphasize was the interoperability of these models. So not having to create a new chat with a new model every single time. In Magi, you can quickly switch between them and basically have these AI work with one another. So you can start the conversation, as I often do with GPT-4, get all the creative output out, get all the outline together, and then instantly flip over that's in that same conversation, just switch over to Claude, and then Claude will take over from there, just continuing the conversation as if Claude was there all along. And that's really one of the big, powerful unlocks, is you can kind of switch between models and even switch between personas, which is the ability to hyper-focus the AI into a given specialty and really get 10 times, 20 times, 100 times better content out of it, because you're leveraging all the different strengths and weaknesses, all of the models together and making up for the weaknesses by switching between models.
All right. So now here's where the nerd side of me is coming out. Do y'all have like an API like for Make, Zapier, or any of that type of stuff? Or Innate? Yeah, the new one I've been seeing a lot of.
So we don't have an API as of yet, but we just recently released what we call actions. So similar to GPT actions, you can write a snippet of code that the AI will be able to execute. And this code could include API calls to something like a Zapier or something like a make.com, and then trigger those external workflows for you right from inside of Magi.
That's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, I'm a Make fan. I build automations for my marketing clients in it, so it makes it really nice to be able to do that type of stuff.
Yeah, super. You can unlock, that a big one for us for a long time. We've been working on it for months because we really wanted to get it right, and even now it's still We saw a lot of ways to improve it. I think right now it's in beta, but yeah, I mean, to get the AI to take actions outside of the container that it's in, you can unlock a whole lot of really powerful things.
Awesome. Awesome. That's pretty much everything I have, all the questions I had for you. This has been a really interesting chat because there's a lot that you can do being able to swap back and forth
Mm-hmm.
and have everything saved in one spot. So is there anything you want to say about Magi before we jump off of here?
I mean, only aim to be the single platform where you can do all of your generative AI things with all of your team. And some of our strongest values are honesty, transparency. Are not a faceless company that is just out there trying to capitalize on a trend like a lot of these small startups who are doing AI things are. We have a vision for democratizing AI and giving everyone access to the world's AI potential. And we just want people to thrive. That's all we want. And this is proven by the fact that we invest heavily in our education of our users. We partnered with a company called the AI Academy. And the AI Academy is a hub of learning, and all of our Magi users get free access to the AI Academy. It would normally cost you like $59 a month, and we give all of our users free access to it. And we do a weekly live stream with Steve Dotto from the AI Academy, and we teach something every week, and we have a library filled with those past lessons. And we are constantly trying to find more creators, more educators, because I think there cannot be enough AI academies out there right now, because the whole world is experiencing this learning curve. And so I think the more that we can invest in education and helping people to step into this next of humanity, I think the better off we'll all be. And so, I love doing interviews like this and meeting people like you who are doing the education out there. And we love investing in those creators who are sort of forging the path forward and making sure that nobody gets left behind.
So one final question. What's the future plans for Magi?
Oh man, our roadmap is 1.5 miles long, and I'm currently what I've had a really hard time with over the last 2 years, because we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary, is I've been so focused on product. I've been so focused on building it. And it wasn't until about a year ago that I got a development team and was able to hire them and take some of that burden off my shoulders. But I still have spent a lot of time in product, just trying to keep up with the industry first and foremost, because there's something new every day. But also to be so good for people. I want it to be so easy. And I've just recently started to make, actually doing some marketing for my company, the thing that I did for clients for 15 years. And so I've started to walk into that marketing phase because I really want us to grow so that we can continue to invest in development and get this roadmap accelerated faster. This year, I think, is going to be the year of agents. You've probably heard a lot about it everywhere else. Agents are the new thing. And it's because AI is finally capable of agentic workflows, agentic behavior, whereas it's kind of existed in some form for the last year, but it's been unreliable. But now it's to the point where it's getting very reliable, and you can trust these agents to actually do things and execute them without going off the rails. So we're focusing very heavily on agents, bringing agents to Magi users, building autonomous workflows to these agents that you can build yourself and share with you and your team. And so that's big on our list for this year. We're also undergoing a huge infrastructure overhaul to make the product just better, faster, stronger, more reliable. Working with all these different companies and all these different connections, it's extremely hard to keep things fast, performing fast, and to keep them reliable because connections fail all the time. So we're undergoing a lot of development in infrastructure right now. And so my goal is to really just spread the word. We need to get the word about Magi, get more people the help they need, and to solve the chaos of AI tools for them. And so in this growth cycle, we're hoping to just reach more customers and invest heavily into this roadmap so that we can accelerate it for all of our users and just build all the cool things that we want to build. I mean, the roadmap is really scary if you look at it. It's like a mile. We have all the things that we want to do, but as a small and scrappy team, we got to take each day at a time.
Yep. We'll have links to Magi in the description below. I really want to thank you for coming on and just chatting about your life and this product. I've been digging around in it. I'm liking it. So I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Have a great day.